Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. I really need to stop listening to the Tachyon Pulse guy. He's got another little conspiracy theory, which is interesting. And I don't necessarily believe it. I think this guy's just making stuff up at this point because he just happens to have all these scoops like every day. But some of them are interesting. So I kind of think of them as more as like little theories and stuff. So now the latest one with Doctor Who is, I mean, it's not a surprising like idea, but the suggestion is because where Doctor Who is at the moment, the Disney has stepped in and they've basically started paying a big chunk of the budget in order to steal the show from all the usual people that used to distribute it. Like in Australia, we don't have Doctor Who anymore. Unless you pay for Disney Plus, you can't see Doctor Who. Whereas before, we used to have it on the ABC forever, and the ABC is like the BBC in Britain. So we always had the Doctor Who for like 60 years. It's been part of our culture, but now it's been stripped away, put behind a paywall, so Disney can hopefully, for them, make some money out of it. And then that was one of the parts of the deal, but the other thing was that they were going to produce the show and just, spend a bunch of money on it so it could look bigger and better. And of course that would make more money, of course, be more popular because it's got a bigger budget and more effects, when Doctor Who was never about that. Doctor Who, from its earliest days of papier-mâché monsters and, falling apart sets, it was about the ideas, it was about the imagination, it was about good science fiction stories, basically, over everything else. And that saved it because you could forgive all that other stuff when it was a good story. And I understood that about Doctor Who when I was a kid even. But now, of course, in these days of, commercial, capitalism and all this stuff, it's like, no, we need to spend a bunch of money and have lots of big fluffy effects and everything. And that'll be why people watch the show, because we'll attract the mindless masses who just like shiny objects and big explosions. So that's sort of where it is, and that didn't work. It didn't appeal to new audiences because it's Doctor Who and it's never appealed to the general audience. It's like Star Trek never really has. So their idea is, well, we've already invested some money in this. Supposedly this is the new conspiracy theory. What they want to do is not step back and give it back to the BBC and then let them find a way to finance it now that they've sort of raised the bar on the production and anything else will look like going backwards. And also the BBC is apparently having financial troubles and have had trouble getting the money for the show for a while because it's not a cheap show. Basically what they're saying is, okay, we'll continue to pay for the show if you give us all control, basically. So it's your basic situation where, a big corporation goes to a little business and says, wow, we love what you're doing. How about we pay for you to keep making this and you give us a share of the profits, and everyone will be happy and you'll get to maintain the integrity of your product. And then they come along and say, well, we've got all the money now, we control everything, so now we want it done our way, so it's exactly like our other products, which won't sell because it's different from the product that you had. And then we'll ruin it, run it to the ground, then we'll all wonder why it failed because we totally changed it into something unrecognisable to appeal to the masses or whatever. That's just what corporations do with IPs. So they're basically saying, give us control of the casting, the production, the producers, the writers, everything. Give us all access to all the past, catalogue that we can put on Disney Plus and strip it from everywhere else, so you can only get Doctor Who on our platform. And basically, we want to own it in exchange, for paying for it, basically. And that's the proposal that apparently made, because this guy says he has someone he seems to have someone in legal departments everywhere. He's got someone in the legal department of Paramount Plus, he's got someone in the legal department of the BBC and Disney, and I don't know what his connection with legal people is, or if it's just a good way to justify and validate things and say, well, these people have seen the papers, they've seen the contracts, they know what's happening, because that's where the truth is, that's where the facts is. There's no rumours there because it's not a matter of opinion or what actors or whatever want, it's what is in writing. And he's saying, they've basically seen the papers that have been proposed to Disney, basically saying, we'll keep paying for the show if you give us everything, basically. And basically step away and just be connected in name only and legacy only, legend only. So and the suggestion is BBC might consider this because the BBC is having troubles, because politics in the UK is bad. Basically, what the BBC in the UK is it's the public paying for TV so that the TV caters for the public. So everyone gets catered for. We get LGBT content, we get different races and different subjects and topics, and it's not just your usual commercial product is what we usually get from commercial TV. It's just reality TV and mindless action and game shows and whatever the general masses can be fed. Because any commercial TV show can do that. But the BBC was different, like the ABC in Australia and PBS in America. They actually are the people's TV, and they're very important. But of course, conservative, capitalist, right-wing people in the UK are trying to defund the BBC because they don't want those people having a voice. They don't want shows being made for everyone. They just want to turn the show into another, commercial network that they will control. It will all be about catering to, the white majority or perceived white majority and so forth. So they've got that agenda and they're pushing that hard, and Doctor Who's facing that. And Doctor Who's not helping itself by being, overly political. But either way, even if they were just towing the line, they'd still be under attack because, they're not conservative. So they can't win either way. So they've just gone totally in the other direction. And one was speculating that they're doing that because they've got nothing to lose. They're sort of going down anyway. They may as well go out fighting and swinging and doing what they want to. But yeah, so I hope the BBC survives. It's very important, just like I always hope the ABC survives because it's very important. I hope PBS survives because all these channels are very important. And so that's what he's saying is happening. Disney's basically proposing to basically fund it all if they get control over everything. And the idea is that the BBC will, of course, jump at this because they just care about money. But I think they care a little bit more about integrity, owning their own product. And I think they'd rather take Doctor Who back and turn it back into a cheap, intellectual, show that has a built-in audience that will appreciate it rather than trying to make it mainstream, make a lot of money out of it. That was where they made the mistake, was they tried to make money out of it. They tried to make it profitable and they tried to make it commercial, and it's not. It never was, and it never should be because, it's part of the BBC anyway.